Welcome to Diaries, the story of Rebecca McDaniel. You think you know, but you have no idea. Who am I? That's a really tough question to answer. That's a really tough question to answer because finding myself has been a difficult journey for me. And to be frank, I don't really think I'm finished searching for myself. At 29, actually almost 30, I'm changing my career path. And when I say career, I never really had a career before I decided to switch gears because since graduating college, I've been bouncing from job to job, not really ever being satisfied with what I was doing and not even using the degree I so painstakingly worked for. And of course, I was always looking for something more, thinking, well, if I just get this job, I'll be happy, or if I just meet a great man, he'll make me happy and everything will be fine. I never really considered or maybe wanted to acknowledge that my future was up to me. I just had to figure out what I wanted. And really probably up till now, I never really knew what my strengths were. And as a matter of fact, most likely I thought my strengths were my weaknesses because I was always told, you gotta toughen up, Rebecca, or you gotta make your skin a little thicker, Rebecca. And it's been really hard for me because of that to come to terms with my inner self. I'm sensitive. I always have been. My mom always called me her tender-hearted child. I'm also a child at heart, plain and simple. Really, I just want to live and let live, and I want more than anything for everyone just to get along. And believe me, I know that sounds cliche, but I'm completely and utterly uncomfortable with conflict. I am the youngest of three, which has its advantages. I learned a lot from my sister and brother, what not to do, how not to get caught, how to act or not how to act. But it does have its disadvantages. I was picked on relentlessly, punched, beat up, name called. I mean, anything you can think of, my brother and sister probably did it to me. And I think that kind of made me incredibly and probably almost hypersensitive. I have a hard time recognizing when people are just joking with me or if they are seriously being malicious. But I take my hypersensitivity as a gift now rather than it being a curse. Being so sensitive has made me a very compassionate person. I have the ability to sense others' emotions. I also have the ability to see and understand both sides of a story. And I think that gives me a good advantage in teaching because it's going to help me to be able to solve those conflicts that will inevitably happen. And it will also, I think, help me teach to the abilities and to the levels of each student. And I want to become a teacher because, I just want to make a difference. And I think everybody wants to make a difference. I want my students to be the ones who change the world because of the things that I taught them. I think because of my aforementioned abilities, I think I can teach my students how to resolve conflicts peacefully. I can teach them how to embrace each other's differences and to accept and be courteous when people disagree with them. All aside from the regular academic learning, I think these are just as important of things for children to learn. And they need to learn them not just from their parents, but from other role models in their lives, teachers, mentors, etc. I think a lot of problems in this life stem from an intolerance. And maybe it's not so much of an intolerance as just an anger that we all have inside of us that seems to get stirred when people think or do differently than we would. because we've been taught that what we feel and believe is of paramount importance. And if our feelings and or our beliefs seem to be under attack, then we should do everything we can to protect those things. And instead, I think we should be teaching that yes, our feelings and beliefs are important, but others are just as important as our own. What makes what I believe more important than what you believe? And that we do have a choice in how we react to those differences. We can choose to fight them or we can choose to accept them. And, we can still continue to believe what we know in our hearts, our own hearts, to be true, while living alongside people who might believe differently. We also need to teach that differences of opinions and beliefs are not an affront on our own feelings and beliefs. And that's actually something that took me 30 years to figure out. Nearly 30 years. But I truly believe that reality is a mirror of our thoughts. And so we really have to choose well what we put in front of the mirror. So if you're choosing to believe everyone and everything that does not align with your beliefs is an attack on your said beliefs, you're going to live a hostile and bitter life. Buddha said it best, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. He also said, it's better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Then the victory is yours. And I think the point there is, just to have some self-efficacy, control your thoughts, your speech, and ultimately yourself enough just to get along. Jesus was another one who taught that we must endeavor to keep the peace. Inevitably, we'll disagree, but just because we disagree does not mean we cannot at least endeavor to get along. I think we need to teach children to recognize a true threat from a made-up one or an assumed one. And we need to teach them how to respond to a real threat. And that, if we're gonna act, we need to act from a logical standpoint rather than acting on and with our emotions, I still have a lot to learn about other cultures, considering there's going to be a lot of different cultures in my school. I know I'm a tolerant person, and I know that I respect each person's differences, but as a teacher, it's important to not only teach and be the example of tolerance, but to also teach students to appreciate the difference that other cultures bring to the table. I cannot teach appreciation if I myself don't know enough about the differences of each one of my students. It's going to be my goal each year to get to know each student, their background and their family and culture's view of what learning is, and their expectations from me. I think it's important to know what your students and family expect of you, not just what you expect from them. It gives you a starting point to say, okay, I'm a kindergarten teacher and this family expects me to teach their child how to read and everything about the alphabet, while this family has already taught their child a little bit about reading in the alphabet. It's important to know those things as a teacher. It's important to get to know your students. It's important to challenge your own beliefs by listening to their beliefs. As a teacher, I really want to strive to be open-minded, compassionate, someone that they can go to, someone that the children know that they can come to if they have a problem. And I think that that's really important. I know when I was in school, I didn't necessarily feel that way. The teacher was just a teacher. I don't necessarily want them to think that I'm their friend, but I want them to know that I am someone, an adult, that they can trust and count on. I want my students to be the ones who change the world because of the things that I taught them.
I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode of Diaries featuring Rebecca McDaniel. Stay tuned for more.